Hello again everybody and welcome to another bit of those special videos which I do very rarely lately, where I just did the footage and add the audio later on. I actually haven't done those in a few years. A reason for that is twofold. First off, my phone seems to refuse to work with an external microphone, and I don't like the audio quality my phone itself produces, at least not when I do recordings on it. And secondly, because I was having random bits of conversation with my beekeeping students during that recording, so I decided to spare you those. Okay, so I think you just saw. There you go. You can see my student was hitting the ground with that box. You want to shake the bees onto the bottom of the box. You actually want to moisten the swarm a bit. You use a spray bottle for that. I think there we see that. This is not smoke, this is mist from a water bottle, which you just use to water down the swarm. That prevents them from flying up. And you actually don't want to use smoke on the swarm. You can see you just dump them on that sheet in front of the hive. This will go away, by the way. We will remove the sheet when we're done there. So, yeah, just dump them on the in front of the hive. And this box is actually not a very special box, it's just a random box that the swarm capture person bought and added this metal mesh to the side. I think they sawed out one side and just added this mesh there so you can so the swarm can get air because they will be trapped overnight. And so you can actually spray the swarm with water, both to cool them down on a very hot day because swarms tend to overheat very easy, and to give them, to prevent them flying up. Because wet bees can't fly. So you actually don't want to use smoke on that, because what you do when you smoke bees is you tell them that the place is on fire, and they will have to dig into their stores and get out. Now, swarming bees do not have any own stores yet. So if you smoke them, they get straight to the we'll get out part, which is counterproductive here because you don't want them to get out. And you want them to settle into this place. You want to convince them that this is a good home for them. And I don't think you would move into a burning house either. So yeah, no smoke here. We also didn't wear any protective gear, because swarming bees are even more gentle than usual European honeybees. And you can actually see that later on. And I can tell you so far that neither of us has been stung. Of course, a bee will land on you every now and then and check you out. Maybe to see if you're a good new location for a home, I don't know. And as long as you don't hit them or pinch them, you'll actually be fine. Now, many beekeepers, at least with packaged bees, prefer to actually shake the bees into the hive directly, which is an option, but over here people actually prefer the option to let the bees march into their home on their own, which, by the way, you can try to spot the queen here if you feel like you need a challenge. We didn't manage to do that. You can see my student not wearing any gloves or anything. And was alright, letting the bees march in. That has several advantages. For one, it's said to be a safer method of getting a swarm into a hive. Yeah, swarm into the hive, not the other way. Because I believe, and that's just my theory, this kind of suggests to the bees that they have found and decided for that place, rather than them being trapped in one box and then suddenly being trapped in another box, which they may or may not leave again. And this kind of tells them that they found this box, they settled for it, and that's where they want to stay. Of course, there are ways to keep them in, especially with bee packages. I don't know much about bee packages, I've never ordered one. And one way of getting bees in there is to use a brood comb from another hive. But you actually don't want to do that for a swarm, because if a swarm gets a drawn comb, they will regurgitate the food they brought with them. Swarms fill their honey bladder when they leave their mother hive. And that's actually bad because you want them to digest all the food they've brought with them. So any potential contaminants like firewood spores will be well destroyed. Otherwise, you'll just have a new contaminated hive, which is not quite what you want. Uh, Decontaminating a hive is very difficult. You don't have to burn the bees, but it's very difficult. And since this is right next to my two hives, I really don't want them to have the foul brood, because then I would have to decontaminate everything in the area, and that's no fun. Now, you just saw we didn't need any veils or protection. And where was my thing? Oh yeah, also another reason for that, I don't know if I mentioned that, is that or for this later audio edition, is that I don't think my phone will work with an external mic. Alright, so the next days here will pretty much decide, or how the next days will go will be decided by if the queen has been mated or not. This was a fairly sizable swarm, so chances are the queen has already been mated, and it has been an older queen. So it will take her a few days to get ready to lay eggs again, but she should be there at, I'd suppose, next week. So at the end of next week, we should be fine. Well, technically end of this week, since it's Monday now. Yeah. The bees, actually, when they prepare to swarm, the bees put their queen on a diet, so her abdomen shrinks, she stops laying eggs, and the benefit of that is that she is able to fly again. She can't fly the way she is when she's in laying mode, I suppose, and it takes her a few days to shift between those two. I mean, it's quite a big strain, and yeah, the bees will draw comb, and there, see, the bees are moving in. They started to march, which I think is kind of impressive, especially once most of the swarm gets to move or starts to move into that direction. And it's also one of the reasons why beekeepers prefer to let the bees march in rather than just shake them straight into the box, because it looks pretty damn cool, you gotta say that. Okay, so we've also been feeding the hive there. You probably have seen the yellow bit there. That yellow bit is an Adam feeder, named after brother Adam. And it's basically a honey basin or a sugar water basin that the bees can access from below. So you don't have to mess with any drip feeders or any outside feeders, which would be horrible because this would just start robbery all over the place. Also, before I forget that, an unmated queen would of course have to, or a virgin queen would have to go on her mating flights now. Although I don't know if they do this before swarming or not. I think they won't. So, yeah. I think that would basically take another week, so it'll take 2 weeks until they have brood if the queen was a virgin. Don't matter though. Either way, you should not open the hive. No matter how tempting it is, you should not open the hive until, I'd say, at least a week in. Because you want the bees to establish a colony in relative peace and undisturbed, which is not a given if you open the hive. And if you disturb them too much, like if you look into the hive every day, they might decide that this is not the right place for a colony, and they might decide to abscond on you. And here's a side note. Some people say you can't harvest honey from a freshly installed colony, and to some degree that is true. I suppose you could just add a honey super later on, and they might even give you like some honey, not much. But the thing is, a swarm has to build a lot of comb. They have to produce a lot of wax, and I forgot what the exact ratio is, but it's at least 3 to 1. So 3 kilograms of honey for 1 kilogram of wax. And since there is a lot of wax to draw on this colony, on this hive, they just need a lot of energy and a lot of well, honey. So much of the stuff they will bring in will be consumed, and that's also one of the reasons why you actually feed a hive. The second being that the weather's actually supposed to be horrible today. It's currently not, but what was I? Right. But it'd still mean that the vast majority of the production will actually go to feeding the brood, getting the hive drawn out, and all that kind of stuff that is certainly necessary. You can, however, check the hive entrance. That shouldn't bother them too much. And if you can see that the bees are bringing in pollen, then it's a good sign that everything is fine. Another reason why you would not want to collect honey from those bees in this year is that when you get a swarm settled in, you give them a lot of sugar water. And Germany, of course, has a honey law which dictates what honey can be made of. It basically says that honey is like the product of bees who have either ingested nectar from flowers that produce nectar, obviously, or the sugary excretions from sap-sucking insects like aphids. So honeydew is also allowed to be honey. And as long as it's neither of those two components, which sugar water kinda is, well, it's not one of those components, you're not supposed to sell it as honey. And since you can't tell which part of it is still sugar water and which isn't, and you can't really only extract those parts that have been made from actual honey, you shouldn't harvest any honey for sale, at least. You can still eat it yourself if you want, but you really shouldn't try to sell it. Where was I now? Right, that's, I think, most of what I wanted to say here. Those bees on the front cover of the hive, by the way, I don't know what they were doing. I've seen it that some bees will just move around the entrance and kind of cover it for some reason. But we're actually checking, those bees were not fanning. What you can see on the bedsheet, there's, for example, on the left side, just before the box there begins, you can see bees sticking their abdomens up on the bedsheet. Those bees are fanning. Those bees are signaling the rest of the swarm that this is the new home. But the bees on the box there weren't. Those bees were actually doing nothing at all. At least they weren't doing anything obvious to us. They were not sticking their abdomens up, they were not fanning their wings, so we really have no idea what they were doing there. If any of you know, please leave a comment below. And yeah, let me know. Aside of that, the entire thing was well, impressive, but mostly uneventful because well, there was nothing going wrong, which is kind of fine. We're actually more prepared to shake the bees in because the weather was pretty awful on that day. I think I said it already. The thing is, I've been doing like 5 or 6 attempts of this video already, so I really don't know what I've said and what I haven't, or what has been in a different take of it. Okay, we have 2.5 more minutes to go. Overall, the entire installation took, I'd say, about 30 to 40 minutes. Once the bees have decided that this is the new place, they're pretty quick to go in. And all you need to do then is just remove the bedsheet and add the little entrance limiter. It's you can see it there on the right side. It's on top of those stone bricks, which you can't add while you have the bedsheet in. It's kind of exclusive, so it's either one or the other. But since you want most of the bees to move in as quick as possible, it's also a good idea to leave it out for a moment. The bees on that box there, we just shook in later. And one more thing is you've probably seen a bit of comb drawn on the lid of the box, which was a line on some side there. The bees tend to do that because they can attach to that wax pretty solidly, and the bees will generally try to accumulate on the lid of the box, so they will hang from it, and they can just do that pretty good from wax. So the bees, I don't think they have much of a grip on plastic. I mean, they can crawl on it, but if you have a bee attaching to the bee, or if you have all the bees attaching to a few bees on the plastic, I think they would all just drop. So they pretty much cover this in little bits of wax you can see from on the inside there, and then you'll have bees attached to the beeswax attached to the plastic, which is a lot of attachments. And I think that I got that bit of comb they drew out there, and I'm going to melt that down. It's nice and white, but it's still going to make a nice foundation. Actually, all beeswax starts out white. It's just getting like yellowish and then a bit dirtier when it is used. And actually, this would lead me to one of my pet peeves in the many beekeeping videos I've seen. But I don't have time for that right now, because the video only has like 20 more seconds, actually more like 10 more seconds to go. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a nice week. There's a bit of comb. And I'm out of here. Until next time, bye!